need some type of professional assistance. We are not going to be able to get a successful URA project off the ground without help. We just don't have the capacity within this group.
Absolutely, I agree, and that was really the premise of our discussion with Paul Benedetti, who is an attorney. So this was a recommendation, was just to chat with him to receive some free knowledge, and that's what we did, and he offered this. So by no means have we paid for it, or we tied to it, or we obligated to it. This at this point seems to be a Paul is definitely an advocate, and Andy and Paul know one another, and Andy said that he feels strongly that Paul would love to see this project through in his hometown. So that's kind of all that came of it.
So this is Veronica. It just would have been nice if this would have been sent out to the whole board, so we could have had a chance to review it before this meeting. I know it's kind of too late for that, but I see that Dustin is offering to email it out. It would be nice if the board could actually see this. I don't know. I just kind of felt blindsided that we did not get a copy of this or even know that it was available prior to this meeting.
Sure, and that I will take responsibility for that. I just thought it'd be nice for us to all look at it together. So I apologize that you don't agree, and we could certainly table it till next month if you'd rather.
I will get it emailed out to everybody, Erica.
Okay.
No, we can go through it. I would just hope in the future that things are sent out, especially if they're on the agenda, especially if it's going to be reviewed, so that we at least have a chance to review it. I mean, I do my homework, so I don't like being behind the, April, not having this in front of me prior to the meeting. That's how I operate. So just going forward, I would like to see things prior to, if they are available.
Sure, no problem. Can everyone see the screen okay? Can you see the screen okay?
I can. I hope.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let me see if this. I just want to see what his table content was. So he talks about key staff, project understanding, project experience and references, and cost timeline statements and certifications. And again, he apologized he couldn't be here, but maybe this is something we should wait and allow him to present, because I don't know anything more than anyone else just looking at the slides. So thinking about it, maybe we should just table it and let him present it since it's his slides. Does anyone want to make a motion to do that? That would give the board time to review it in advance and then give him an opportunity to speak about it because it's his content.
Motion to postpone it till the next meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Same sign? Okay. And did everyone that is on the call that wants the presentation receive it? Did anyone not receive it? Should have just been emailed out.
So perhaps someone can have a conversation with the city's attorney to see if, I don't know the cost of this, but if it's substantial, I don't know what your contractual obligations are with the city. That may or may not require an RFP. Right.
Sure. Is that something Dustin or Mr. Mayor can look into?
Sure.
Thank you.
And it would be nice to see more than one proposal. So
Sure.
I think it would be a good idea, whether we're legally obligated to do it or not. It would be nice to see who else is out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are several different people in the arena. But I think what Andy's intent, because Andy came and talked at a public meeting at the council chambers or the commissioners chambers, and what I took it from Andy's intent wasn't so much that this would be something as a contract, as more of something of, here, this gives you an idea of the kind of stuff we're doing, sort of as a foundation for the discussion. That was my take.
Okay.
And again, it wasn't requested, it wasn't solicited, it was offered. So yes, of course, we can get other proposals, but this was just two gentlemen that offered their time and an opinion and professional input, and so we thought we would listen.
Okay.
Okay.
Can anybody at the meeting kind of give us just a rough breakdown of what the cost offer was? I mean, is it an hourly rate? Is it an hourly rate, or what is it?
Two phases, 20 grand per phase, roughly.
And what is the time frame of these phases?
The second phase may never need to happen.
Okay.
And the first phase is broken down into tasks, and that kind of has to do with stuff of how the process works that Andy and Paul would be way better to try to explain than I can.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Can anybody tell me, what is the URA's current annual income? Roughly, I'm not holding anybody to the exact number, but I mean, what is our basic annual income?
I'll know more tomorrow after I talk to Todd, but last year was around 11,000. I would guess that this year it'd be about 16,000, and next year probably 20,000.
Okay.
And it all depends on how the property values increase in that district.
And we currently have 30,000, I believe, is the last number when we checked.
Yes.
And that will change based on what's going on in our district, and would also give us an idea if redistricting is a better idea. So Paul Benedetti spoke about, maybe your identified district isn't the best district, maybe you should re-identify that. So that was something we talked with Paul about.
Is there any other funding available to pay for something like this, like grants or anything like that?
Yes. So we had a county meeting, and Tara Marshall with Dora was there. And we talked to her briefly about, are there funds available? Is a plan something that we should pursue, or should we use those funds for seed money? And she said she would love to have a full-blown presentation to the URA at next month's meeting. She too was unable to attend this meeting. And so Tara would like to come and talk to us more about what funding options would look like. And that's your DOLA.
Great, thank you.
May I ask a
does incorporate some of these on the side streets, and then it incorporates a big portion of West 7th. So that is our area. So on our July meeting, we discussed, what are projects that those in attendance on the July meeting felt strongly that they wanted to look into. And we identified St. Mary's School, sidewalk work, the building at 2000 and 2011 Main Street, 201 and 211 Main Street, the apartment building on Wilson in Indiana, 7th and Main gas station, Walsenburg Wild Waters, and the vacant lot near Wild Waters. Did anyone have any updates on any of those, just in regards to the progress of them, the ownership, or what we're looking for in the future?
I think the 7th and Main gas station is planning to be a restaurant that will open up next summer.
Yay, good. I know.
And I think that's still all in the works. I think they're going forward with that.
Wonderful.
I just have a question about the apartment building at Walsen in Indiana that is a burned down apartment with tons of trash around it. Has the city sent them a nuisance summons or addressed them in any way to clean it up?
We are addressing 7th Street and Main Street. I can pull this for you and get with you tomorrow to give you exact progress on where we're at.
No, I'm saying Walsen in Indiana.
Also in Indiana, I have not confronted that yet.
We need to confront that. There's so much trash there, it's sickening.
Okay.
Every time it gets cleaned up, somebody just dumps more. I know they began cleaning it up, the pile started getting smaller, and then it started getting bigger again. But I think Miss Mays is asking if she would like to get a report on that particular property specifically.
Yeah, and I'll give you a report by tomorrow, and I'll approach it.
So the St. Mary's School, what is the thought on, I mean, that's not a lot different than Walsen in Indiana. Yeah, no.
Okay. I know that there has been a representative of economic development trying to reach the current owners to see what the plan is, what they intend to do with it, if they would be willing to sell it, or at least allow access so we can see if it's salvageable or if it's a tear down or what the status is of that. I know that Paul Benedetti, the attorney who is giving us a lot of help and support, that is the school he attended, so that's near and dear to his heart. And I think all of us, without speaking for everyone, but assuming that we all feel the same, would like to see something done with that property. But we have taken steps to reach out to the owner to try to figure out what is their intention, what are the possibilities, and what can we do with it.
And I will just say, I think the big difference between St. Mary's School and the apartment complex is that at least St. Mary's School, at least they maintain that property. Right. It's not an eyesore. They cut the weeds. They maintain the building. Walsen in Indiana is basically a dump. There is just trash there that hasn't been cleaned up from the fire, and it is on our main street. So I think that needs to be a priority and get cleaned up for people passing through.
I 100% agree, Veronica. We have been working our way down 7th with notices and abatements. And then we're going to work our way up and down Main Street / Walsen. I have been following through with my idea of 3 days a week to get our building inspection queue down, which we have, and then 2 days a week with code enforcement. I'm conducting an investigation on how we're doing on that. Between today and tomorrow, so I can get you a 100% update on where we're at. Last I heard, we were still working our way down 7th on nuisance violations. So he is working that way on the days I've told him to work.
Well, besides nuisance stuff, in regard to these two properties, there's something else that Erica may know a little more than I do about. The county is working on brownfield assessments. I don't know if Dominic is still here. or if he's gone. But I was in a meeting with Dominic a few days before the last council meeting, and I provided the council with that list of projects that the county had thought was the best for Walsenburg. And I did tell them to add the Walsen property and to look at the gas station as potential things that we should add to that. The gas station is moving forward. I talked to them today. But they're trying to get down through CDOT hurdles, and there's still going to be reclamation of gas tanks. They can push it down for 30 years, but if there's a way to wrap this all together and to get them the help before they get ready to open, we should try to push that up the list maybe.
That's why I thought I see my nose now. I thought it was like something's not right.
Hey, Carl, you're not muted. We can hear you. There you go. And anyone else, if you're not speaking, if you want to mute, that would help with a little bit of the background noise. So thank you for that. Let's see. I believe they were looking at 201 and 211 for the Brownsfield project as well. Is that what your understanding was, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, and I'm thinking the Walsen project can even be easier because I think most of that assessment stuff already, there were all the inspections pre-fire. So a lot of that already ought to be done.
Perfect. And I think the last topics, just based on, did anyone have any updates on sidewalk work, what that looks like, and Walsenburg Wildwaters?
I would like to ask when Tara comes our next meeting to ask her about potential monies for the wild waters. Maybe if we could get a grant, because for like early childhood, or it's because our kids really have nothing to do in the summer without the wild waters. And I was told, I have a friend who lives in Texas, and she always drives through Walsenburg. She saw it was closed, and so she said she just looked up real quick, grants for water parks, and she found several that were listed. So I would like us to look into that, and maybe Tara can help us.
Absolutely.
The wild water situation, I finally ordered the filter about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and I'm just waiting on the part. It's being built. So as soon as I get that part, then I have the capability to test all of the stuff. My goal is to get it done before it gets cold. So I'm kind of hoping it gets here soon. But as of right now, I've been tasked with getting it fixed. So I'm doing, once I get that piece fixed, then I can ascertain what else is wrong.
Wonderful. That's great.
And I can add that I've had several conversations with Tara, and she's more than happy to talk to you guys about funding. But where we're at, as far as our conversations, is there's a fall deadline. We are going to try to get a grant application to GoCo, expecting it to be rejected with all the little bullet marks of what we did wrong, to reapply on the next round and figure out how to build the funding stack to do the match for the GoCo grant, because there are a lot of small grants that can go to Parks and Recreation. But unfortunately, I still don't know if we're looking at $100,000 or $750,000.
Well, at least it's top of mind and parts are being ordered and progress is hopeful. So all good news.
Well, we paid, the city of Walsenburg paid a professional, allegedly a pool specialist type engineer to come in and give us a kind of a bullet list of what needed to be done. And we never followed through with that list. We kind of did our own thing, did what we wanted, didn't do what they recommended. So it's in the conditions it's in because of that kind of behavior is one of the reasons. And then I don't know about GOCO grants, but when I attempted to reach out and asked about GOCO grants for that park before, I was told that GOCO grants are only for construction of new projects, and GOCO would not cover any maintenance costs. And that was like a final reply to my reply for help from GOCO grants.
We're not going to maintain the pool. We got to rebuild it.
Okay.
Would we consider enclosing it and making it a year-round thing versus just a couple of months a year? I mean, if we're gonna go for the gusto, why not make it something that can benefit the city year-round and its citizens?
I think if you want to do something like that, are you talking about keeping the pool the same as it is now?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard, from people in, the community about like just a pool where people can do exercise and those kind of things, swim lessons, like more recreation, like a rec center type than just the park. But if we could, kind of use the park part of it and a pool part of it and make it really just a place that people can use year round, maybe still have the outside park, but build an inside pool that can be used for seniors for exercise, for kids for swimming lessons, and something like that. Just an idea, just a thought.
So something that could be done in 2 phases, maybe, where you get what's there up and running to where they can use it that season, and then do the planning for doing the addition of the enclosed thing.
Yeah. I mean, we have that whole other corner of the park that I've never seen anybody use. I mean, the community could so benefit from that. And I think that there would be other funding available if we did something like that that's addressing, health promotion and those types of things, especially for seniors. I mean, they have nowhere to do those kind of programs in Huerfano County.
So from an economical standpoint, enclosing it makes a lot of sense. When I talk to the citizens who grew up as children and adults around year-round water parks and swimming pools, they've all made the same comment. The other issue is a lot of the damage that we see to the pool that has happened and continues to happen is because of improper winterization and maintenance. And when you enclose it, that would delete some of that responsibility of winterizing it if it was a year-round enclosed pool. So those all are good points and make a lot of sense to me.
And it's jobs year-round.
Absolutely.
And so then if that's the consensus, we probably need to look at going forward in the route that we were discussing, Dustin, but also trying to figure out how you get that preliminary feasibility study for the expansion. Because it sounds great until you talk to the people who have enclosed pools that tell you, absolutely do not do that in our community, and the financial costs. And so doing the feasibility of that, yeah, I'm all for it. And then when there's solid data, then a decision could be made.
Well, and I think it's kind of like you said, Ryan, keep the current one the way it is, just better winterize it, and then build a separate pool that can be used during the winter, also during the summer, that can be used for other activities outside of just recreation.
Maybe you look at it 2 ways, just like Veronica said, keeping one outdoor and one indoor, or just enclosing the whole thing. I know as a mother of young children, we often go to Raton. They have an enclosed pool. If you haven't looked it up, you should look up Raton Aquatic Park. It is phenomenal, and it's year round, and it employs, quite a few people. And then also we go to the YMCA in Pueblo, which is similar indoor. You see a lot of water aerobics from your elderly. You see swim lessons from your youth. There's multi-units going on all the time. And then there's an enclosed pool in Fort Garland as well. So as a resident of Huerfano County, we kind of bounce between the three because there's not a lot to do in the winter. I grew up giving swim lessons at that pool before it became a water park. And I taught many of the children how to swim, and now my children don't know how to swim because there's no pool for them to take lessons. So I think it would be great. I do think it would, it would prove to be financially reasonable if it was managed appropriately and marketed. So I'd be all for enclosing some of it, part of it, all of it, and also getting some type of lap pool for your seniors and for your youth to learn how to swim.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other comments on going back to July, what we identified as projects? Great conversations. So we talked about in August identifying the needs. So on our August meeting, we talked about, what are our needs? What do we see as community members? What could be potential uses for some of these properties that we've identified as blight. We talked a lot about weed control, which I know Dustin and his team are working on. We talked about sandbag weed removal. I know the county looked into our sandbags and made sure that those weeds were removed from what is owned on the county side. We did reach out to the people that worked on the Far Out murals to see what they have upcoming and if there's additional art projects that we could utilize to beautify our community. And they do have another round of funding that they're going to apply for. So hopefully that will come up soon. We talked about some of these properties becoming a better use for housing, affordable housing, short-term housing, long-term housing, hotels, hospitality. The possibilities of getting a gym, what could we do with a river walk, and then just looking around to see what our other URAs doing. And again, on that monthly DCI call, it's a round table of what our other URAs doing. So I'll send that link out again tonight, encouraging everyone to attend those monthly. So with those identifying the needs, does anyone else have any updates on potential projects that are in the works or thoughts they have of this list? There's a lot of ideas floating around for housing, grants for affordable housing. So we've been working on that at the county level, looking at people who are wanting to possibly bring hotels to the area. Nothing solidified yet, but just starting negotiations with different people that would benefit from these. We did have a meeting with Parks and Rec and Washington Underground to see what we can do to get that equipment and utilized again, whether it's in the same location or a different location. So we do have that in the works. We met with that today. And just trying to find different things for not only our youth, but our, adults and elderly, for them to have things to do, such as a gym. Okay. And then September, we were hoping to get a plan of action and funding. Again, Tara Marshall with DOLA is going to give us an update at our next meeting, which would be October. We had those sit-down meetings with Paul Benedetti and Andy Arnold, which we already went over a bit, just to see, are our funds better spent using it as a match for a program, or revamping some of our rules and regulations, or having guidance from a professional like Andy Arnold. And those are all up for discussion. And I think we can circle back on that next month. Tara Marshall will be on next month, and I believe we can have Andy Arnold as well, and he can give us his presentation. Again, nothing we're obligating to use him, but just see what he has to say and how he could help the community. Dustin or Mr. Mayor, is that something you want to reach out to others to get other proposals coming in, or is that something you want me to work on? I don't have any contacts, but I can certainly do some research and find out.
You mean in regards to next meeting or in general?
In general, we had some.
I think Tara and Andy would be a good conversation.
Okay.
For next meeting, I think sometime soon you need to drag Kat Carell into the conversation.
Okay. And who is Kat with?
Kat's at BCI.
Great.
They do the URA meetings.
And maybe that's a good idea. We can hear from Andy Arnold, and if it's something that we think that we would benefit from, something we want to move forward with, we can open it up for an RFP. We can get other bids. But like I said, he just volunteered his opinion and his advice, so we thought we would listen. Anyone have any thoughts on that or a different direction in which they'd like to go? I'm just scrolling through the chat here. Okay. Well, I didn't have much more than that planned. I always try to keep the meetings to an hour or less, and without the proposal from Andy Arnold, that's really all I had. So does anyone on the board or anyone in the audience have anything else they'd like to add?
No, but Dustin, are you going to be available by phone here in a minute?
Yes, it will be.
I'm going to give you a call if you don't mind.
Sure.
So this is Gay Davis. I'd just like to say that, you know, I think the mayor hit the nail on the head, recognizing, first of all, that the capacity in our community is pretty limited. You know, that's been an extended conversation with Mr. Benedetti for a number of years that, you know, if this URA is really going to get off the ground, it's going to take someone committed and dedicated and with some background knowledge to really make it work. You know, not forestalling or being negative on Mr. Arnold. I guess I just have some concerns working in the public sector when you know, you lend yourself to criticism and lack of transparency when you don't open it up for other possibilities. And I think to really get the URA off on the right foot, you know, and then legitimately, developing an RFP gives you the opportunity to really define what it is that you're looking for and what you want. And that's lends itself to a great conversation so that you don't just pay for a whole bunch of stuff that really isn't applicable. So congratulations. I think you're on the right track.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, and I don't disagree with you. I just think Mr. Arnold kind of skipped to that portion of it, that we weren't quite ready yet for that. So by no means were we intending to hire someone or look at a proposal. It was more hearing what he had to say. But I agree, always best, and always best to have at least 3 bids if 3 bids are available. So something certainly we'll look forward to. Anyone else?
And part of an RFP process too is we want to figure out how to fund it. I mean, if we were going to pay $40,000 for professional services out of URA funds, that might not be a very good idea. If we're going to pay $5,000 out of URA funds with 35 from some other matches, then that's probably a good buy. So all those things have to go together, and we want to rush, but slow and steady wins the race.
Well, and until we can get more funds into our coffers, this year really is just looking at projects, doing what we're doing, brainstorming. I would like to see, you know, if we could get some funds for Wild Waters And, I know the county wants to do more with the rec center. Maybe we could build something all together on that. And we could get DOLA funds and GOCO funds for new construction like that. And I think that would even help with the age-friendly designation that we are trying to get. So that's one of the things I think that the URA can do is kind of, I don't know, just kind of look at all these projects and maybe bring them together. And that's where a consultant might be really good if they're not too expensive.
Absolutely.
Oh, this is Veronica. So does the city and county, do they receive funds from the Colorado Lottery? That I thought that lottery funds were designated for parks specifically. Does the county and city receive those funds?
Yes.
And what do we do with those funds? I mean, are those funds not used toward like Wild Waters?
So last year, and I will know if it actually happened the way it was supposed to after we talked with the accountants. But those funds, city council said to use those funds and the marijuana excise tax funds to go to pool improvements. We've generally in the past used our CTF funds just commingled with the general parks budget. This year, there was $20,000 in the budget specifically for parks projects that council approved. And so we get around $14,000 of CTF money. I don't know how much the county gets. And then the Huerfano Parks and Recreation District gets some conservation trust money, a percentage of what the county and the city and the town of La Veta would have received otherwise. And they do micro grants with their money. And we can apply for $15,000. That's one of the small funding sources that we can apply to is that Huerfano Parks and Recreation District.
In regards to the county, I don't have my budget in front of me, but I know a man who has it all memorized. So I don't know if Carl's on, if he could hear, if he knows off the top of his head what we received.
Yeah, so the county receives about the same amount as the city. It's about 15 grand, towards 15 grand. I don't remember what that number is. The Parks and Rec District gets half of what would normally go to the city, county, and town. We use ours for maintenance at parks. I think most of it this year went to maintenance at Fiesta Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another thing, kind of what I wanted to say a while ago is maybe with all of us working together, the URA, the city, the county, maybe we can get onto the ballot the next time funding for the Parks and Rec, because several years ago when we formed the Parks and Rec, everybody wanted to have it, but then the measure to fund it failed. And maybe now people are ready, and we may have to just start a ballot campaign to get that on our. Can't happen this year, but maybe next year.
I agree with you, absolutely. A lot of these cities and counties that have thriving Parks and Rec departments usually have some type of money coming in to fund them. So absolutely. All right. Anyone else have any final thoughts for the group? Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate everyone joining. I will go ahead and send these links out for upcoming DCI meetings, the TIF financing recording that happened last month, and make sure that we can have Tara present and Andy Arnold present, and Paul if he's available at our next URA meeting. Anything else anyone would like to see or request? Perfect.
Thank you, Erica. It was good. Great.
You're welcome. I think with
Thank you, everybody, for
for a motion to adjourn. If yes, and yes, thank you. It's without everyone here participating, we wouldn't get anywhere. So I know it's new to all of us, especially the financing aspect. So it's going to take all of us working together and collectively with the same vision to move forward.
Yes. Okay.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Okay, we will chat with you next month, and I do appreciate it. Everyone have a wonderful evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That was the Walsenburg City, Walsenburg, Colorado. Appreciate you guys checking it out. I'll leave it posted so you can refer back to it. And leave comment. If you'd like to see me cover more of these meetings, they're city and county meetings every week. And I can broadcast them for you if you'd like. Just let me know in the comments. And if it's something you guys want to see, then we'll make it happen. Hopefully the audio was good. Video was good. It's our first run. We'll just get better. All right, guys. Thanks.